How we doing, folks? So what we've kind of run into with a lot of you who are doing school virtually is a lot of you are not attending the Zoom meetings. So I know that there are some of you who are, but for us, I think maybe a more practical way to do this is for me to just provide you with the lecture materials if you are virtual, and then you can reach out to me with the questions that you do have. So this is what we're going to do. If you are working through the quiz today, which you will be doing, I highly advise that you watch this video because I'm going to try to help you out. We're going to work through some grammar kind of structure materials that this multiple choice quiz covers here. And it looks really boring, but it's very good and does some really nice things. Plus, it'll go in as a quiz grade. You may use this PowerPoint, use any resources you have to help you through it. Once we complete that in class today, as well as virtually for those of you who are on the hybrid out of the building today, we're going to begin our Edgar Allan Poe unit. And rather than me start with a lecture like I generally do, we're just going to dive into a story you probably have at least heard referenced, if not read, called The Telltale Heart. So that is the plan for today. What I want to do is go ahead and jump in here. So the first thing you will find to conquer in your module, and I'm going to give the students in class today, probably half an hour to work through this once I give them this lecture that I'm going over with you right now. We're going to dive in. Okay, so you will see this is a quiz. This video will be attached to it, so feel free to use, reference as often as you would like. This PowerPoint is also going to assist. So we're just going to kind of work through here together, take a look at what Falling Water has to offer, and we'll go ahead and get started here. So the first thing you'll want to do is scroll to the bottom of page 1 where it says Test Yourself, and you'll see this reading about falling water, and then you will read this paragraph. The sentences are numbered. You'll notice that in some of the questions. So, some things, and there are 10 slides here we're going to go through. The first one, first question actually asks you about concluding a paragraph. So, if we were writing an essay, we probably want to provide a transition. But in this case, we only have one paragraph. So, the biggest thing with starting and ending is the topic and conclusion sentences should relate to the same topic. Okay, you can think of the conclusion sentence as kind of like a wrap-up, if you will. Okay, so just as the introduction, just as the first sentence, the topic sentence, just as it introduces a concept, or in this case, falling water, the conclusion should reference that exact same thing. And again, this is different if we're writing an essay because we want to transition from paragraph to paragraph. But in this case, all we have is this little snippet, this one paragraph piece of information about falling water. So keep that in mind. And again, when you're working on question 1, the topic sentence and the conclusion sentence should work together on the same information. Apostrophes. Most of you are aware of this. There are 2 and only 2 reasons to use an apostrophe. Possession or ownership. Ownership. Okay? It is, so we can go with like the cat is Jessica's. The second reason is contractions. Example, that's a good idea. We are replacing that is with that's. Here's some kind of trivia for you might not be aware. When you see in your history books, feel free to talk to your history teachers about this. If you see 1990s, that is incorrect. Because you have to ask yourself, what is the reason to use that apostrophe? And unless the 1990s own something, we don't need it there. We can just write it as 1990s. Okay? There is an apostrophe question there. So ask yourself, is there possession or ownership, or is there a contraction? There is one exception to this, kind of one tricky part of this that we will get into later. Verb tense comes up on number 3. And the biggest thing with verb tense is you cannot go from past tense to present tense within the same paragraph. So what I mean by this is let's take, just use A here for an example. If I start out by saying the text describes, I cannot later switch tense. So what I mean by that is I cannot start adding ed to things. Once we establish a tense, whether that be present, past, or something fancy, we need to remain consistent within that tense. So when you look at this question here in number 3, I think the answer will be pretty evident to you But just with verb tense, and again, when you're writing, this is something that I'll talk to some of you about as well when we kind of start conferencing. You need to remain consistent with regard to your verb tense. If you start in present tense, leave it in present tense. Okay? Fragments. I hope that fragments are a review, but the biggest thing about fragments is you must have a subject, you must have a verb. He wept is a sentence. It has a subject he and it has a verb wept. We don't need anything else. Upon my return to class is not a sentence. It gives you no information. If I walk up to you and I say, upon my return to class, you look at me like, dude, tell me something, okay? Ask yourself, is there a subject? Is there a verb? And if there is not, it is a fragment. Comma usage. Comma usage is kind of tricky, but the biggest thing about comma usage is know when to use them. And if there is not a reason for one, do not randomly throw one in. Commas largely are underused, yes, but at the same time, ask yourself, why is there a comma there? Is it a compound sentence with a conjunction? Do we have a list? Okay. Do we have an introductory phrase such as after school today, I will play? Fancy sentence. What is the reason for that comma? And if you cannot think of one, don't use it. Okay. Moving right along here. Parentheses. I love parenthetical phrases. You will learn that about me. You have probably already learned this about me. Just looking at the modules, I love parenthetical phrases. The biggest way that they can be used is they can add or clarify previously, I guess, referenced, stated information. I love parenthetical phrases. The older I get, the more I use them. And one of the coolest ways that they can be used is they can add information that you have previously brought up in kind of a, among other things, it looks nicer, okay? Parenthetical phrases are wonderful. Obviously, a lot of us have used these, when doing some other things as well. On your phone, you need to have the parenthetical phrase to do the winky face or the smiley face, right? Depends how strong your flirt game is there. But one thing that they can do, and one thing they will do on the question on your quiz, is it will add or clarify previously referenced stated information. Love parenthetical phrases. I'm a nerd. Okay, that's what that is. It's versus its. So. This won't necessarily help you a whole lot on the second reading here. It's about like a rotunda situation, some mansion. Anyway, what is the difference between its and its? So we talked earlier about apostrophes. And with its, we have to ask ourselves, okay, so am I looking at ownership or am I looking at a contraction? Okay. So let's say I'm talking about my cat, Fido. That is its, I guess it'd be a girl, so that's not really perfect. Hang on, let's restart. Say I'm talking about my car, Betty. Although then she would have a name. Let's just talk about the car. That is its engine, okay? So in this case, we are looking at ownership with its, okay? And this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one, knowing the difference when to put the apostrophe with its and when not to. If we are using the contraction, it's a beautiful day. Okay. So clarification, when do I use its? When do I use its? If there's ownership, you do not need the contraction because we have to be able to tell the difference between the two. With its, only use the apostrophe when it is a contraction representing it is. All right. When the heck do I use a semicolon? Okay, so first of all, again, back to the flirt game comment. When I was your age, believe it or not, we didn't have the fancy emojis, okay? So if I did this one, you could put the LOL, and then if she didn't like it, she'd think you were joking, and it was wonderful. But I digress. Semicolons are wonderful because they can fix comma splices. They can be used to link relating information. So let's go with this. My name is Nathan. Nathan loves golf. He plays often, okay? Additionally, we can do this. We can say Nathan loves golf. Katie, my wife, prefers swimming, okay? What you cannot do is say Nathan loves golf, semicolon, oh my goodness, a deer just got hit on the road outside. Okay? Have to be relating information. One other thing you will notice about a semicolon. On both sides, you have to have a complete sentence. Okay? Semicolons link complete sentences that present relating ideas. Simply, they're wonderful. I don't want you to overuse them. I want you to know when to use them and how to use them, and specifically with your quiz today, how to identify when that is a good thing to do. That, I believe, pretty much gets us through here. You'll have a reading about Aaron Burr in the end here, and these things are just things you're going to kind of have to figure out on your own. Once we are through this here, so once we've completed this quiz, we're going to read The Telltale Heart. I will provide you with the audiobook for this, but this is one of Edgar Allan Poe's, probably his best short stories. Most people will say that. We will be starting an Edgar Allan Poe unit in class, kind of one of the standards at the 10th grade level. Edgar Allan Poe is kind of dark. Those of you who are into the Saw movies or kind of, kind of violent, dark type stuff, you'll really enjoy him. We will read probably 3 short stories in class and then probably do some compare and contrast work in the end. But we're going to start with, I always like to start with The Telltale Heart. So one of his more heralded, canonized short stories. It's about a man who doesn't want you to think he's crazy, but we know, especially by the end, that he certainly is. It's rather short. Okay, I'm going to ask you to reflect on it once you have read it. There may be some questions to address here as well, but it's fairly short. I'll provide you with the audiobook. In class today, we're going to more or less play straight through it and then kind of reflect on it, some of the happenings, so on and so forth. I am not going to lecture over Edgar Allan Poe today. That will be something that we'll do at a later date. He is an interesting guy, kind of went through a lot personally as well as professionally. Had some vices, you might say, that made his life kind of tough. But Edgar Allan Poe, wonderful, wonderful author. Telltale Heart, one of his finest things that he's written. And I'm guessing that this is something with which some of you are at least familiar, if not have already read. So take a look at that. That'll be what we're working through today. One additional reminder, and this is posted in the module. The next time I physically see you, you are taking a vocab quiz. Okay, so that is not today. That starts tomorrow on Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, hybrid. We'll be doing vocab quiz 2. So take a look at your score on the first one. If you did a great job, I'd say prepare in the same way. Otherwise, maybe work through some different ideas there. So let me know what I can do. Let me know if you have questions. Good luck on the quiz. Good luck on the reading. And we will see you next time.